right. I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'Hashem Yahushai, Ba'Hashem B'cha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Part 3, The Chariot of Israel. And pretty much this is inspired by a video I was watching from one of the brothers out there in Dallas. As you can see here, GMS in Rome, Lions on Fire. And pretty much he put up this video which he was pretty much I didn't get a chance to watch the whole video, but he got a couple of TikTok videos of chariots, and I believe this is the second one. The other one, they thought it was a meteor coming down, and then the meteor broke up into a whole, the so-called meteor broke up into a whole bunch of, lights, and then they started falling down, and then they stopped at a certain point, and the guy that was sounded like one of the Latin tribes, probably Issachar, they were saying how these vessels were turning sideways. So it got me to thinking about scriptures, and I had still like one more precept on one or two precepts, or actually about one, maybe two precepts left from when I was doing a few days ago when I was doing a series on the Chariot of Israel. So I said, let me go ahead and go into it, Lord's will. It'll be edifying. But there's so much going on that it's impossible to jump on every single thing out there that's happening worldwide concerning prophecy. That's why Yahweh Shai said, the harvest is plenteous, but the laborers are few. Pray that the Lord of the harvest sent forth laborers into his vineyard. And that's why brothers are supposed to be on top of this, when they see these things, reporting it, speaking about it, because we're at the very end, and this is ushering in the end. Now, when we go to this particular precept, right, it mentions pretty much when our forefathers were in the wilderness, and what this great appearance of the Lord did back then to magnify his name, and to pretty much let the nations know who was doing and establishing this thing on the earth. And at that particular point, when you go back to the time of Noah, that was one time. And then when you go to the deliverance of Egypt, that was another time when the Heavenly Father Yahweh magnified his name. So we're at the point now where the Lord's name is about to be magnified once again on the earth for the last and final time, so that from this point on, once Yahweh Shai comes back to deliver his elect and to take down the empires of the world, including Russia, he's going to magnify his name once again forever. Matter of fact, let me get one precept on that, and then we'll proceed. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 2. I love this precept because it says it all. Excuse me. 2 and 17. And the loftiness of man shall be bowed down, and the haughtiness of men shall be made low. And the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai alone shall be exalted in that day. Because the Lord is coming to magnify his name. He's coming to bring the world to its knees. Because remember, the scriptures say that every knee shall bow to Yahweh Shai, which when they bow to Yahweh Shai, they're going to automatically bow to the Most High. So the whole earth is going to be filled with this great trying to find a word for it, this great happening, for lack of I can't think of any particular words, but this great happening that's going to go down is going to serve to glorify Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai once and for all, forevermore. because the Apostle Paul, before I read this one, the Apostle Paul spoke about Yahushua receiving power. He spoke about him receiving the kingdom. You know, he spoke about him having everything put under his feet, magnified in the heavens, but we haven't seen that magnification on the earth from everybody. Like, we know, we magnify and we understand, but the majority of the world has not bowed down to Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. They have not magnified the Heavenly Father's Son, because they're still calling him Jesus, Yeshua, Yehoshua, and all these different names. They're not magnifying him by his name, Yahweh, Yahushua, and they're definitely not magnifying the Most High by the name of Yahweh. You have a lot of different names. You have Yahweh, you have Jehovah, you have Yahuwah, you know, so you have a lot of stumbling blocks out there, but there's only going to be one name that's going to be exalted. You know, that's going to be Yahweh. And Yahushua's name will also be exalted in that day, because he is the Savior of Israel, which is the mediator of the Lord Yahweh. So Zechariah 49, and Yahweh shall be king over all the earth. In that day shall there be one Yahweh, one power, and his name one. Not all these different names. The Lord has many titles, but one personal name. So those individuals out there, like the IUIC, that's playing with the names of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, they're going to be dealt with. They're going to be dealt with. At least they repent. So Hebrews 2 and 8, thou hast put all things in subjection under his feet. For in that he put all in subjection under him, he left nothing that is not put under him. The only thing that's not under the authority of Yahushua is the Most High himself. You can read about that in 1 Corinthians 15. It says, but now we see not yet all things put under him, because he hasn't come back yet to take, because the Lord told him, Yahweh told him, sit on my right hand until I make thine enemies thy footstool. So that's what we're waiting for now. And when that happens, the world is going to know, just like they knew during the time when the Lord delivered Israel out of the land of Egypt. All those nations knew and revered the Most High. That's when the name of Yahweh was totally magnified throughout the earth at that time. So let's go now back to Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 14. For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, as the waters cover the earth. So the chariots are going to be everywhere. The word of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai will be everywhere, because this is one of the things that would be happening to usher in the end of the world. Let's go to Matthew 24 and verse 14. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. And what's going to serve to magnify that? Well, the prophets of the Lord are out here teaching and telling the world what's going to happen. You had false prophets out there saying one thing. You have the men of the Lord, the prophets, the real prophets of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, telling the truth. And the Lord is going to make himself known. And the world, that's why it says, and then shall they know that a prophet has been among them, when the Lord magnifies himself and sets himself up once again on the earth. Everyone is going to reverence the names of Yahweh and Yahushua. Everyone is going to bow to those names. And the nations will bow to the Israelites. They're not going to be co-inheritors. They're not going to be co-equals. They're going to bow. They're going to be slaves. They are going to follow the law, statutes, and commandments. We're going to follow it because it's going to already be programmed in us. The Lord's going to program it in us with our changed bodies, a changed mind, and laws inserted into our inward parts, which is going to serve as an upgrade for us. But the nations will reverence the Most High by keeping his laws, by keeping the high holy days. Because while we were in captivity under these nations, we had to serve their gods, we had to serve their laws, we had to be under subjection under them, and follow behind their rules. So if we're going to be in the kingdom of heaven, they're not going to have to follow our rules. You must be out your mind. So let's go to the main precept in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 3. We're going to start at verse 1. Verse 1. Habakkuk 3:1, a prayer of Habakkuk the prophet upon Shigionoth. It says, O Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, I have heard thy speech and was afraid. See? So when you hear the words of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai spoken through his men, they're supposed to bring a certain level of fear in you to motivate, to move, to do the things that are pleasing in the sight of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, so that when this chaos, this destruction that's coming, that shook even the prophets back then, when this comes, we can be on the right side of it. It says, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, revive thy work in the midst of the years. Why? Because the Lord spoke the word in ancient times, and it was dormant until time passed. The time passed when the Lord caused these things to start happening. That's why I did a lesson years ago called Time Dictates Prophecy. Because there's a certain set time for each prophecy. There's a time and chance for all men. You have a certain particular time for everything that happened. Matter of fact, let me get real quick Ecclesiastes chapter 8 and verse 6. It says, because to every purpose there is time and judgment. Therefore the misery of man is great upon him. For he knoweth not that which shall be, for who can tell him when it shall be? So the Lord tells him through what? Through the prophets. Surely the Lord power will do nothing, but he revealeth the secrets unto his servants the prophets. So every purpose that the Lord purposed upon the earth has a time and a judgment. And the Lord's counsel is going to stand. And once the time ticks past, that time of the prophecy to be fulfilled, that's when the prophecy starts to speak. It starts to come out of that dormant state, so to speak. All right, that's why it says at the end it shall speak and not lie. All right, now let's go back to Habakkuk 2. It says, "O Yahweh Bashem Yahushai," Habakkuk 3:2. "O Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, revive thy work in the midst of the years. In the midst of the years, make known what? Your words that you spoke by your prophets. In wrath, remember mercy." See? So in the Lord's wrath, the prophet Habakkuk was saying, but remember mercy upon us. That's why Yahweh said, because you have kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation. So it says the Most High, or the powers, came from Teman, and the Holy One from Mount Paran, Selah. So now Teman, or the Temanites, are the Germans that lived in the area of down south of Edom or Idumea, as you can see here, Teman. You have different variations of where it's at, but it's somewhere in this area. Now the Temanites today, which are the wisest among Esau, come from Germany. These are the wisest of, Esau's men. So you could say that these Temanites would be like the Chaldeans to the Assyrians / Babylonians, and during Syrian and Babylonian Empire. So the Temanites would be like the Chaldeans. The Chaldeans were the top magi, the top, wise men of the, the time of during the time of the Assyrian / Babylonian empires. All right. So Teman, who was down here in the south, because that's what the word Teman means. It means south. It was in the land of Edom. And then eventually they migrated out. Remember, Esau was moved out of that land. They migrated out. And eventually they took over the world through the land of Greece. That's why they're associated with the Greeks today. All right. Specifically, the Macedonians. Now, there was a list of Macedonian kings that go all the way back to about 800 some odd BC, right? That could have been when they started to take over Europe, through because it definitely took over through Macedon. But they could that whole line of those kings could actually be Edomites from the beginning all the way down to Philip II and Alexander the Greek, or somewhere down the line they interjected themselves into that line, like they did into the lines of the so-called European, uh, um, the so-called European nations. Okay, that's how they could have got up in there. All right, but definitely we know that through the Macedonians, that's how they took over the known world. All right, and the and Haman, the Agagite, he also was labeled a Macedonian. So that he was also of that line, but he was of a kingly line. And that kingly line went through Agag, which was the king of the Amalekites, that came, that were trying to take Israel down. And when Haman was sitting on the throne, his whole thing was trying to take over the Medo-Persian Empire at the time. But his plans were thwarted, and it was thwarted through Mordecai, who was a Benjaminite, who was an Israelite that refused to bow to him. And he made a big stink about it because he had all this power. He was pretty much like the second in command under, the king, the Persian king. And, he wasn't getting the full respect that he wanted. So he plotted to take out Haman, and that plan backfired on him. And they took him out, his sons, and those Edomites back then. All right. So Habakkuk 3:3 goes hand in hand with Deuteronomy 33. Let's go to that real quick. Deuteronomy 33 was when the Lord brought us out of our forefathers out of Egypt. Okay? So Deuteronomy 33:1, and this is the blessing wherewith Moses, the man of the Most High, blessed the children of Israel before his death. And when you read further down, after it explains that great deliverance through the wilderness, it starts to give you blessings that would befall the Israelites in the last days. All right. And this is the same thing that Jacob did to his sons prior to him dying. That's why we also believe that Jacob and Moses are the same, the same individual coming back, because Jacob, Moses, David, all the same, Peter, they all had that head position. So it says, and he said, the Lord came from Sinai. Now, the wilderness of Sinai, or Mount Sinai, is between the peninsula known as the Sinai Peninsula, which would be down in this area right here. See right there? Right? Oops. Right there. That's the Sinai Peninsula. This is a peninsula right here. This is the Gulf of Aqaba. This is the Gulf of Suez. And this is where the Israelites crossed somewhere, up here somewhere. Because if they would have crossed here, it would have took them a lot longer than a couple of hours. So it was very narrow where they crossed. We don't know how wide it was, but we know that when you do the research, I believe that was Jacques Cousteau that actually, went down into the sea and found remnants of Pharaoh's chariots down there. But they, our forefathers crossed here. So this is Sinai, right? Then you have Mount Sinai somewhere in this area somewhere. They're not sure exactly where it is because there are a lot of mountain regions all in this area, right? And then you also had Mount Paran. Now, when you do the research, some say that Mount Sinai and Mount Paran are the same. Others don't agree with it. But nevertheless, it was in this area here because you had the wilderness of Sinai and the wilderness of Paran. So this is where they were at when the great chariot was there. Now, prior to that, they were crossing somewhere here. And this is when the nations heard of that great deliverance. When the Lord parted the Gulf of Suez, which is the northern tip of the Red Sea, because it breaks up into two gulfs. All right. So when that happened, the nations heard about it. They heard of the great devastation, the great deliverance. They heard of the whole army of Pharaoh and his military and their horsemen all died in the sea. Pharaoh included, because you have some that say that Pharaoh is included. There's precepts and scriptures on that. So then this is where they ended up at. So it says, and he said unto the Lord, I'm sorry, let me go back here. So he says, and he said, Lord, the Lord came from Sinai and rose up from Seir unto them, right? Because Seir, which is Mount Seir, would be further up here. Okay, so Mount Seir would be in this region up here. You see Idumea, it would be up in this region up here, somewhere in this area. I don't have a map right now to illustrate that. Here you go, Seir. That's Mount Seir, somewhere in this area here. All right, then you have Teman, Basra. Then you come further down. This is the Gulf of Aqaba. This is the Gulf of Suez. You got Mount Sinai. Then they have Mount Paran up here. So they have different locations for it. So this is the wilderness of Sinai, the wilderness of Paran. This is where Jake was at during this time. So it goes on to say, and he rose up from Seir unto them. So he came down southwards. He shined from Mount Paran, and he came with 10,000 of saints, which are the angels. From his right hand went a fiery law for them. And that fiery law, you when you go to, I believe that's Deuteronomy. I'm sorry, not Deuteronomy. I believe that's Exodus. Let me see something. And if I can't find it, you can look for it yourself. Exodus. I'm not sure if that's the 33rd chapter. Let me see something. Control. Nope, it's not in there. So let's do this. All right, it's actually 31. Exodus 31 and 18. And he gave unto Moses, when he had made an end of communing with him upon Mount Sinai, 2 tables of testimonies, tables of stone written with the finger of the Most High. That was the laser that came down to etch, the Lashuan Kodash on those tables of stone. Because that Lashuan Kodash, this is another proof that the Lashuan Kodash is the language of the heavens. Another one would be Acts, the 26th chapter, roughly around the 13th verse on down. All right. And this finger of the Most High is very important, because that is a laser. All right. So right there, they have the word finger, which is going to say probably finger. Atazabai, finger, toe. Okay. It's not going to really go into it, but it's symbolic for the laser of the Most High, when he wrote down those laws. That was the fiery law for them. All right. Matter of fact, let me see the word fiery. Right. Ash-dath. The word for fire is ash. So you have there ash-dath. Fiery law. Fire of a law. Fire was a law, meaning uncertain. Well, it was not uncertain to us. See, that's law. This word dath is law. You will have the word ash, which is fire. And there's a let me see something. Decree, law, edict, regulation. Then you have the word command, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's tazawa. If I'm not mistaken, so let's go from there back to Habakkuk 3:3. The Most High came from Teman, and the Holy One from Mount Paran, Salah. His glory covered the heavens, and the earth was full of his praise. Now, who was the one that was there giving glory and honor to the Most High Yahweh Shai? That's why it says he was daily his delight. He does the things that are pleasing in his sight. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 10, start at 1. Moreover, brethren, I would not that you should be ignorant. So who is the Apostle Paul speaking to? He's speaking to the Corinthians, right? And who are these Corinthians? Are they actual Corinthians? Are they actually Edomite white people? No, they're Israelites. Now, this is what he says. Moreover, brethren, I would not that you should be ignorant how that all our fathers were under the cloud. So he's including them in it because they are also Israelites. All our fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea. So he's including them in there. Why? Because they are Israelites. They are the ones that had to be reconciled because their forefathers go back, which pretty much a lot of them were those that were back there because reincarnation is scriptural. And were all baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and did all eat the same spiritual meat, and did all drink the same spiritual drink. For they drank the spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was the Messiah, Yahushua. See? So Yahushua was back there, just like Yahushua is going to be back here now, doing the same thing, but on a grander scale. Because remember back then, those militaries, it was just the Egyptian military, the Mizraim military. This time is going to be the militaries of the world, Russia included. So Habakkuk 3 and 4, right? It says, and his brightness was as the light. Now, when you read 2 Ezra chapter 13, it speaks about this also in a little more detail because he's coming back to destroy the armies of the governments and the armies of these nations. And more also, but because it says the slain of the Lord shall be many, but that's the main ones he's coming for, It says, and his brightness was as the light. He had horns coming out of his hand. See, what is those horns? Those are lasers. And there was a hiding of his power. Now, when you look up this word horns, matter of fact, let's look up the word brightness first. The word there is nagai. Naga. Brightness. It doesn't really give you much. It's like a light. So when we look up the word horns, we have the word Quran. Now, Quran is another way of saying horn. You have shofar or shawapar, which is a trumpet. Then Quran is a horn. You would use a horn to blow the trumpet, right? And the Quran is horn of strength, flask, horn as musical instrument, horn like projection on the altar, because you have the horns of the altar. And here it has what? Of rays of light. What are those rays of light? Laser. Because what is a laser? A laser is concentrated fire, concentrated light. You take a magnifying glass and you and allow the sun ray to pass through it, it becomes concentrated fire. And you could burn things up with it. Okay? So those rays of light are what? This is the lasers coming out of out of the chariots, blowing down upon the earth. And why does it say it's going to come out of the Lord's mouth? Because he's going to give the command for it. All right. There was another thought that came to mind. I'm trying to see if I could remember it. So let's read this again. And his brightness was as the light. He had horns coming out of his hand, and there was the hiding of his power, because that's what he's coming with, power. And in the red book that we have, the red Bible, the word there for horns is bright beams coming out of his side. What are those bright beams? Lasers. All right. Before him went the pestilence, and burning coals went forth at his feet. Yeah. Because you're going to have the missiles, but you're also going to have the lasers from the chariots. Those are the burning coals that are going to go forth. That concentrated fire. Now, in the movie War of the Worlds, the one that came out in the 2000 something, I forget the exact year. It was Tom Cruise in it. You had the tripods that came out, and what were they doing? They were showing lasers at the people and turning them to dust. Because when the Lord comes back, it said the slain of the Lord shall be many. You're going to have individuals, Israelites included, that are going to be cut in half or disintegrated by those lasers. That's why I said that when he came to that great multitude that he went to fight against, there was nothing to be perceived but dust and smell of smoke. Why? Because he just disintegrated them. It says he stood and measured the earth, behold, and drove asunder the nations. Why? Because they're going to try to fight against him, and he's going to put them down with that great gigantic chariot and the other chariots from the angels. It's going to be easy work. And the everlasting mountains were scattered. The perpetual hills did bow. This is talking about the governments, because they ruled for a while, and now they're going to be put down. It says his ways are everlasting. I saw the tents of Cushan in affliction. These are the Cushites. And the curtains of the land of Midian did tremble. Yeah, because when the Lord comes back, everybody's going to bow. Everyone, every nation, they ain't going, including the Russians, including Gog, in the land of Magog. Was the Lord displeased against the rivers? Was thine anger against the rivers? Was thy wrath against the sea, that thou didst ride upon thine horses and thy chariots of salvation? See? And why did he say that? Because he saw devastation. Because the Lord said that on America, there's going to be nothing left. All these bodies of water you see in America, they're going to be dried up. They consider Manhattan to be an island. It may very well sink. The Lord is coming to do some vicious. He's gonna come do some vicious things here, man. It says thy bow was made quite naked. That's dealing with the lasers. Also you could throw the missiles in there. According to the oaths of the tribes, even thy word. Yeah, because the Lord is coming to bring judgment upon Esau, the nations, and their armies for what they did to the nation of Israel, the controversy of Israel. Selah, thou didst cleave the earth with rivers. The mountains saw thee, and they trembled. So actual mountains don't tremble. This is talking about the governments. Remember, it says, what is that? Luke 21. It says that the powers of heaven shall be shaken. What's that? That's dealing with the might of these governments of the world. Which, what is their might? Their military. This pompous attitude that they have. The overflowing of water passed by. The deep uttered his voice and lifted up his hands on high. The sun and moon stood still in their habitation. At the light of thine arrows they went, meaning the missiles, and at the shining of thy glittering spear, that's the missiles. So you're going to have lasers from the chariots. You're going to have missiles. And don't be surprised if the Lord also causes the elements to fuse together and actual fireballs come down on the earth, just like they did during Sodom and Gomorrah. Thou didst march through the land in indignation, because that's what he's coming to do. He said, I will not meet thee as a man. He's going to be traveling in the greatness of his strength, and he's going to be bringing the righteous anger or indignation of the Most High. Thou didst thrust the heathen in anger, because the heathens are not going to be saved. They're going to be slaves. Thou wentest forth for the salvation of thy people. Who's the people of the Most High? The Israelites. Even for salvation with thine anointed. Thou woundest the head out of the house of the wicked. Because you have what? Amalek, top wicked. Then you have also who? You have the international bankers that through their corporations, they have taken power and control of the world and their resources. So when he wounds their head, meaning he's going to bring them down. He's not going to utterly destroy them all, because they got to serve captivity. And the so-called elite of the international banking families, all nations included, beginning with Esau, beginning with Amalek, they're all going to get a taste of that slavery. They're going to be the first ones that go head first into slavery by discovering the foundation unto the neck. Selah. Yeah, so he's going to pretty much devastate them. Take them out. Thou didst strike through with his staffs the head of his villages. What are the staffs? That's dealing with those missiles. They came out as whirlwinds to scatter me. So they're coming out. They're going to come with their missiles. They're going to come with their fighter jets, like they show you in the movie Independence Day. But the Lord is going to eviscerate them. Their rejoicing was to devour the poor secretly. Yeah, because how are they going to try to devour the poor? Through the New World Order. through, the MOTB, which is the micro C hip, with all of the trimmings, so to speak. Thou didst walk through the sea with thine horses through the deep of great waters. So the Lord is coming with his horses, which are the chariots. And what are the great waters? This is dealing with their militaries. They're going to come like a flood. They're going to try to impose their will on the world. They're going to be totally annihilated. When I heard, my belly trembled. Why? Because he actually saw these things happening. He was moved with fear because it's, matter of fact, let's go, to the book of Daniel, the 12th chapter and the first verse. And at that time shall Michael stand up. Who is Michael? The chief of the archangels underneath Yahushai. The great prince which standeth for the children of thy people, because he's also coming to protect us. And there shall be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. So this is going to be a devastating time. So you have to remember, when the prophets saw this, they were nervous. It's not the same. I mean, when you watch a movie and there's certain things happening in the movie, action-wise, you get nervous. But just imagine being in the midst of it, witnessing it, seeing it, in 3D and living color. It happening right before your eyes. Picture it like a small idea or example of it would be you being in war. For you brothers that have actually been in a war, that have RPGs and bullets and all that stuff being fired at you. You in the midst of that fray, and how disoriented people can be or can get. But now just imagine that magnified with all other kind of stuff going on around you. So when the prophets were actually there in the vision, seeing these things, witnessing these things, feeling, that tension. It says, and at that time, thy people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book, meaning the elect. It says, when I heard, my belly trembled, my lips quivered at the voice, rottenness entered into my bones, and I trembled in myself, that I might rest in the day of trouble. When he cometh up unto the people, he will invade them with his troops. All right, and the Lord is coming with the angels. Although the fig tree shall not blossom, neither shall fruit be in the vines, the labor of the olive shall fail. Why? Because the Lord is going to destroy this place. And the field shall yield no meat. The flock shall be cut off from the fold, and there shall be no herd in the stalls. Because the Lord is going to destroy this place completely. Yet I will rejoice in the Lord Yahweh B'Shem El-Shai. I will joy in the power of my salvation. Why? Because the Lord is coming to deliver us. Yahweh B'Shem El-Shai, the power is my strength, and he will make my feet like hinds feet, and he will make me to walk upon mine high places, to the chief singer on my string instrument. So that's why it says that they got the ones that got the victory. They were praising the Lord. They like in Revelation 11, it says that they saw the great earthquake. They were delivered, but it says that they were nervous. They were nervous, but yet they gave glory. Revelation 14:1, and I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads, which is the governmental body of Israel. And I heard a voice from heaven, as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of a great thunder. And I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps. And they sung, as it were, a new song before the throne. This is the new song that we're speaking right now, teaching. And before the four beasts and the elders, and no man could learn that song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. And no one's going to be able to learn the song except for the 144,000. Because the 144,000 are going to have it, receive it, retain it, and keep it all the way to the end. All right? These are they which will not defile with women, meaning with the false philosophies, for they are virgins. These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits unto the Most High and to the Lamb. And in their mouth was found no guile, because they didn't deviate from the doctrine. For they are without fault before the throne of the Most High. So that's what it's going to be, the string instruments, the harping. The men of the Lord are going to sing the song until the deliverance. And there's going to be a lot that's going to go on. And these chariots, they're going to start, showing themselves more and more the closer we get. And they're going to show themselves more in detail, not just as lights. They're going to be more detailed the closer we get, especially in that day. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Till the next time I say, Shalom.